Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a fantastic day, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this video, and that you're looking after yourselves and one another. With me today, I have a very special guest, Mr. Ryan Gavalier. How's it going, Ryan?
Oh, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing okay for what day is it today? Shit, Wednesday morning. We're taping this
Yeah.
Wednesday morning, guys. I'm doing all right. So ladies and gentlemen, Ryan and I talked about this a few weeks ago about our ranking our top three Miles Davis albums. But Ryan came up with an interesting idea. Seeing as how most people tend to, talk about Bitches Brew, and the 70s stuff, on the corner, etc., we decided to go in the opposite direction and talk about Miles Davis in the 1960s. So we decided to rank our top three albums of Miles Davis from the 1960s. All right. So with your patience and our indulgence, you'll hopefully enjoy this episode. So I'm going to hand it over to Ryan. Mr. Gavalier, take it away.
Um, so my number three pick is Nefertiti, which is one of the latter albums of the 60s. I think it's from 68, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Um, you have the lineup of Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Tony Williams, so that classic second quintet with Miles Davis that really made the 60s special during like the hard bopping era.
Mm-hmm.
Um this album is really interesting because I think a lot of it is more energetic, but the opening track, Nefertiti, is a really beautiful and more solemn tune. I think it's honestly one of Miles's most beautiful songs, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and then like I also think that this album is extremely well recorded. All the instruments really pop on here. I mean, and you
Yeah.
see that happening increasingly as we go into the later 60s with Miles, because even albums like Miles Smiles, which I thought about putting on this list today,
Mm-hmm.
sounds amazing. But I think this is just a really well recorded album. And like I said, a lot of the other stuff on here has a ton of energy to it. I mean, these guys play the shit out of their instruments on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I would say especially Tony Williams on the drums. He's killer on this album.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just think this is a really solid album. It kind of harkened back to some of the more modal stuff that Miles had done in the past, but also looked more at the hard bopping stuff too. It's just an interesting album right before he got into more fusion music, and I think it's honestly one of his greatest straight jazz albums.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. That was going to be one of my picks, but I didn't pick that. Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't pick that, guys. No. Um, what I like about this period too, he tends to let, and we'll get more into that, I guess, but he tends to let the musicians sort of roam a little bit musically, like go off
Yeah,
little tangents, and you know what, go off and do what you're gonna do. Okay, Herbie, you got the piano going, do your bit,
yeah,
but then come back in, right? So I mean, there's a lot of improv going
definitely.
on these albums, and yeah, no, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. It's a
Thanks.
good thing I didn't pick it, for God's sake. Um,
Yeah.
uh, my first one, ladies and gentlemen, is Sketches of Spain. From 1960. Um, five pieces on the album. Even from the album cover, and, people know the album cover. It's a very, almost like very cinematic album musically. Very broad, sort of orchestral pieces. Um, you know, with some, I mean, there are 5 tracks on the album. Sorry, the major piece is a 16-minute opening track, concerto. What the hell is it called? Um, Concerto Arenas, I think it's pronounced Arenas, um, Adagio, and it's again what in my notes. It's very cinematic. I put down nice symphonic flourishes, uh, beautiful trumpet, dramatic sections here and there. Nice use of castanets. So yeah, it's that track alone makes the album for me. Other tracks, the other tracks, Will of the Wisp, um, the same thing, very orchestral, right? And it's like a soundtrack for like any movie that would have come out from like say MGM in the 1950s or 60s, right? So, but this is where I think that where now Miles Davis. This is where Miles kind of like just sort of taps into his more cinematic feel for the music. With songs like oh God, sorry, Salia, says, which ends the album. So yeah, that's my first one. Again, he's not afraid to experiment with what he wants to do, right? So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
That's a
Um, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
that's a great choice.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I,
Yeah.
I
It
try.
yeah, it's like on the opposite spectrum of stuff that I was like picking, like my style, like my favorite stuff, but it's such a masterful album. It's
Mm,
one that took me a bit longer to appreciate because it is more of like a straight orchestral type of album, like
yeah.
not quite as loose as a lot of Miles's other stuff. So it took me a little bit, but as I got on, I realized how ahead of its time that album is, and it's like really amazing and beautiful sounding too.
Yeah, it just to me it seemed like he wanted to do a lot of stuff. He had a lot of music that he wanted to record. He just didn't have enough time to do it. And um he was ahead of his time in terms of in terms of what he wanted to do. And he was lucky that Columbia let him do whatever the hell he wanted to do most of the time when he did record.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So okay, so what's your next one, your number two?
So my number two is also from 1968, and it's Files de Kilimanjaro.
Okay.
I love this album. It's mystical, it's weird, it's experimental. I mean, this is the first album where you hear electric instruments because Herbie Hancock is playing the electric piano on a lot of the tracks.
Yeah.
And this album grooves like a motherfucker. It's so good. And honestly, like the only track that's like really any like thing that's like more straight jazzy or like more like mellow is the last track, Mademoiselle Mabry, but the rest of it's just like really weird and kind of exotic sounding jazz. It's really a game changer for Miles, and I think you see very quickly where
Yeah.
he is headed. And it's
Hmm.
also another brilliantly recorded album. I mean, it's for how much there is going on at all times, there's a perfect separation of the instruments.
Yeah.
It's like it's just beautifully recorded. Yeah, fantastic. And also just once again that really amazing quintet lineup that I mentioned. I mean, this is my favorite actual lineup for Miles
Yeah,
personally.
that's pretty much the classic lineup. I mean, he would
Other other than kind of blue, because I mean, like that lineup there with like John Coltrane and stuff is obviously legendary. But I think that the chemistry that this band had here is probably just as good, if not maybe a little bit better, in my opinion. I just think they had such a great sound.
hmm hmm
Although, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say with a Miles type of thing, like trying to pick favorites because it's all so good. He's just like one of the best of all time.
Yeah, no, I mean you're right. And this lineup is considered to be the classic lineup. Um, I was talking to Bill Schuster last night. We were on a video call, and he was saying that this lineup, this era of Miles Davis is maybe his favorite because of the musicians he's got playing with him. And this is just before, like, um, you know, with Bitches Brew, he had like also like he still had Herbie Hancock with him, but he also had like John McLaughlin play with him too, and Chick Corea.
Yeah.
So on the album, so yeah, I mean he was able to, and at that point Ron Carter had left because he wanted Ron Carter to learn to play, to play electric bass, and Ron Carter refused. He's like, well, what's the difference? And Ron Carter's like, well, everything, the feel, the tonality, the everything, the I can't do, and he says it's not that I can't do it, I won't do it, I refuse. So he's like, okay, moving on, So, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, this is good. That's a good choice. Um,
Thanks.
we must carry on, ladies and gentlemen. My next choice is from '68, and if you hear the dogs barking in the background, guys, I'm sorry. Um, from 1965, ESP. Um, what to say about this album? Even from the album cover, like the picture of him with sitting there looking up at his wife, Frances Taylor. The cover itself is a very fall like cover, like the leaves falling in and just you're on a park bench, just sitting there like on an afternoon, just relaxing, talking. It's got that kind of a feel to it, and even the music. I mean, the title track. I mean, a lot of this stuff on this album is like up tempo with the drums, and what I like too on these recordings is there's a lot of separation between the right and the left channel. So I mean, you've got like, say, like the drums on the right channel and the horns and whatever on the left. So it's like you got a good sort of wall of sound. You're covered. All bases are covered. Um, I mean, the title track is great, like up tempo and drumming, and nice trade off of soloing. I put in my notes here. There's a lot of freeform arrangements on this album, I should say, right? And like there's even like there's a track here called RJ, which I think Wayne Shorter, believe wrote that track, and I think it's a tribute to Robert Johnson, right? Which it could be inferred. Again, nice up tempo beat, and more free form melody. Agitation is another one where it's just like you get like horn stabs here and there, in terms of the arrangement and stuff. So it's a very well-rounded album. So yeah, that's ESP is my next choice.
Nice. Good choice. Um,
You
so
okay?
my yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Okay.
So my number one is from 1969 and it's In a Silent Way.
Okay.
And yeah, so this is like I think if you're trying to show someone that's not like a jazz fan a Miles Davis album, I think this is definitely one that could be an option. Bitches Brew could be an option. Um, Jack Johnson could be an option, but I think those are kind of the three that I would probably recommend, especially from that era. Just because I think this album crossed over in a lot of ways. I think especially with the introduction of John McLaughlin on the guitar.
Yeah.
The way his guitar was mixed on this album is just so chilling. There's moments where it's just so sparkly in the mix, and it's just
Hmm.
like it really crosses over jazz. It's like you hear like how that would influence genres like indie and how it would influence like folk and rock, etc. Just like that guitar sound. And also I think all the organ and electric piano on here is really weird sounding too, from Chick Corea and Joe Zawinul, and Herbie Hancock. So you got three fucking legends of the keyboard on here, like,
Exactly, exactly. You
um,
know,
which is a masterpiece. You only have two tracks on here. Um, really, it's side one dash peaceful, side two in a silent way dash it's about that time, so kind of like similar formula of what we'll get on like bitches brew, or not bitches brew, well, kind of bitches brew, but it was a double album version of it, and then
yeah,
also like on the corner, so doing like sidelong tracks and stuff. And I just think the music on here is weird at times. It's beautiful. It's often subtle. There's like things that you really have to like hear on multiple listens to really appreciate. Um, and I really feel like the production by Teo Macero, who produced all three of the albums that I mentioned, shall I
yeah,
mention, are just so beautifully recorded, so beautifully mixed. I think the only thing I would say is that some of sometimes the electric piano is a little bit too high in the mix,
yeah,
but
yeah,
fuck, it's 1969. I'm not gonna get on them about that. Like,
yeah, yeah.
it's a brilliant album, and yeah, I think it's my favorite of the 60s. I mean, there's so much great stuff during this era, whether it's live material. Because I was thinking about putting Four and More on here because that's a really
Okay,
great,
yeah,
great album. You know, he has a lot of great studio albums over like the course of this 10 years we're talking about. I literally focused on 2 years. So yeah,
yeah.
it's those are my top three, but I'll run through it real quick again. It's Nefertiti, Billy Dick Kilimanjaro, and then In the Silent Way.
That's good. That's a good choice.
Thanks.
Again, just quickly, what I like. What, I've said this before with to you in other videos that what he does is he lets the musicians he plays with do their own thing, like shine, like like take a spotlight kind of a thing during the recording. If someone wants to do a solo, and that's a lot of these tracks in the 60s too, he will let you do like a piano solo or even a bass solo, or with Wayne Shorter it would be like a sax solo. And he's like, you do you, like, this is the arrangement, these are the charts, but you do what you want to do, and if I feel I need to rein you in, I will. And he really didn't. You know what I mean? So that's great. I mean, so okay, we must carry on, ladies and gentlemen. My last choice, and again, these albums are in really no order, is from 1967, Sorcerer. Um, with the exception of one track, everything was recorded in 1967. The last track, Nothing Like You, was recorded in 1962. And we'll get to that in a second, believe me. The the This album continues with what he was trying to do, just trying to sort of push the boundaries of of the arena of jazz. And even the first song, Prince of Darkness, like, it's just nice, in my notes, nice improv feel. What I liked too, what he did was what I noticed on these albums even more was he would do a lot of twinning of melody between the trumpet and the sax. So they played the same line over and over, like they would twin it and carry it out. And I love, it gave it a more rich sound, right? More fuller sound to me. Um, Another track on the album is Muscalero, which is again, you know, a lot of these tracks are up tempo. Like they're not somber in terms of, you know what it is too, on this album especially. The you know who's on drums? I think it was Tony Williams on this album. I mean, he'd be going off on a drum pattern, just doing whatever he wanted to do, like cymbal crashes or whatever. Like, it almost sounds, yeah, it almost sounds like, the world's coming, falling down around you.
Yeah.
But, you've got Wayne Shorter and you've got Miles Davis just playing the melody, very somber, very, very serene, and you've got Herbie Hancock doing passages, like very, very soft piano passages. But Tony Williams is behind them going, going whatever, like going all crazy. And it's like, what the fuck is this? It's unreal. Like, but it comes together really nice, on songs like Muscalero. The one track I really could do without is Nothing Like You. And it was done in 1962. The music is fine. It's only 1 minute and 57 seconds long, but the vocals kill it. I want to take a hammer and just bash whoever decided that was a good thing to do. There are certain pieces of music on albums that don't need vocals, and this is one of them. Thank God there's only 1 minute 57 seconds. Otherwise, if it was 1 minute 58, I would have gone nuts. Because I just, the vocals just kill it for me, right? Otherwise, it's a fantastic album,
Honestly, yeah, that was kind of maybe like something that didn't put this one on my list. I mean, I love this album a lot.
Yeah.
It's another one that grew on me over time. Like, I think it sneaks up on you how brilliant it is and how truly weird it is. And also,
Yeah.
like, fuck, I mean, Miles is having tracks called like The Prince of Darkness in like 1967. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty fucking badass. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie, like, that's like some Black Sabbath kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
the sorcerer, like, Dio, like, hey, like, what's up? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Like this is, yeah.
this,
No,
I
even,
mean, the music isn't like that at all,
no,
but
no.
it's a sick album. I love this album.
And even, tracks like Limbo, where you've got like the piano intro.
Yeah.
I mean, I could listen to that till the cows come home. You know what I
No,
mean?
yeah. This
This
is a great album.
this album to me, and most of the albums that we picked, or all the albums that we picked, a nice summer night, you've got the windows open, you're sitting outside, you're having a coffee or whatever. I mean, I drink coffee. You got the music playing on the stereo in the living room, and the music's just coming out through the window, and you can just hear it. It's a beautiful night, and you can just like drift away on this album. You can listen to it and just relax and just chill. No problems. If you're outside, don't forget the mosquito repellent. But other than that, you're doing okay, right? This is the kind of music that this guy did, that Miles Davis did. He did everything against what people expected him to do. And these albums are just proof of that. So, but yeah, I mean, that one track, and Nothing Like You, it's like the vocals, forget it. It kills it for me. I I was mentioning it to Bill last night. He's like, yeah, it's the one track. It's I can't take it. Like, he's like, just kill me now, hit me with something and knock me out already, because it's pretty bad. So yeah, it's a pretty good list. I mean, we've covered quite a range of records here, from 60 to 69, right? So yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, this is our list, and it's a pretty quick show, but I mean, sometimes that's what happens. So I want to thank Ryan for joining me on this show, and guys, check out these albums. So what was I going to say? Check out the albums. Let us know what you think down below. Put your comments down below, and let us know what you think of Miles Davis. And yeah, and click like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that I've got coming up. What do I have coming up on the channel, I've got top 5 album ranking of Canadian rock band Saga. That's going to be coming up on Saturday, I believe, on the 22nd. I've got other ideas for the shows I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be pre-taping, obviously. So again, let me know what you think of the videos. And for now, for Ryan Gavalier, please look after yourselves and one another, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.